I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, July the 30th, brought to you in part by the National Beef Wire. Our spotlight today is on Philip Livestock Auction, also known as Philip the Giant. It's brought to you by Zoetis. You can watch the anniversary barbecue sale on nationalbeefwire.com on channel 6029. You can also go to dvauction.com and watch the Philip Livestock Auctions barbecue special. But talking about the report for today, this fake meat kind of has funny math. We had information come out about second quarter earnings on Beyond Meat, which is the only one that's gone public yet. There's several other companies out there that are offering fake meat, but Beyond Meat is by far the best known because of their IPO or initial public offering. But it's kind of hard for us, those of you I know that are watching this report, me, anybody in the ag sector, in animal agriculture, especially cattle producers, to imagine how popular this stock has gotten. Not necessarily the product that they put out, but the stock that they have offered there. And it's just hard for us to fathom how people have jumped all over that. It's similar to some of these polls that you've seen earlier that's showing us that there's 2 or 3 of those crazy Democratic candidates that could beat Trump if they had the election today. Yeah, right. Let's look at the board for right now. Your board for Monday, August live cattle futures were unchanged for the third trading day in a row at 108.65. October down 45 cents at 109.45. August feeder cattle down $1.42 at 142.30. September down 127 at 142.82. So taking back a pretty good hunk of what the feeder cattle board gained last week. Your weighted average on last week's fat cattle trade on 72,700 head of negotiated live, or not necessarily live, but negotiated sales in the 5-area feeding region. That's 72,700 compares to 77,600 the previous week and just 64,000 the same week a year ago. So we've started to beat year ago volume totals here late in the year, and these packers are working their way through these cattle at a quick clip here, and getting rid of the meat too. So despite this fake meat popularity, our beef demand is outstanding, and the sales are outstanding. They're moving a lot of it. Your export demand is outstanding. It's just no problem there. It's just working through all the other things with supply and demand. And it seems like the packers are always on the end making all the money, and the producers are just beating their head against the wall. But your weighted average on last week's fat cattle trade negotiated in the 5-area feeding region, live sales all the way from 111 to 118, but mostly 112 to 115, totally 112 in the southern plains. We even had some sales in Iowa that were over that 115 into 116 and 117 for those really high quality carcasses. But for the most part, the bulkier trade, 112 to 115. Your weighted average on live sales, live steers, 113.68. That was up 66 cents from the previous week. Dress sales, though, not as much volatility there, 180 to 185, and that's a lot of what we saw the previous week, but it had more up there at 183, 184. And your weighted average on those dress sales, steers, 183.37. That was up 37 cents compared to the previous week. Nationwide, if you look at that, 86,600 head negotiated sales nationwide, less than 7% of them, that's not very many, were for 15 to 30 day delivery. That kind of lets you know these packers are hand to mouth. They're not being able to set anything up. They don't have near as much setup out front as they would like to have. And I think there's still a little bit more time to make hay before this thing planes out a little bit. So we need to get as much market position as we can before these market ready supplies in the northern plains fill up again. But right now they're very, very current and kind of short of cattle up north, where they're really looking for those high quality carcasses. But let's talk a little bit more about that Beyond Meat deal. On May the 2nd, if you remember, they had their IPO at 25 bucks a share. That sucker went up 789%. Unbelievable. By far the most successful IPO they've had in years, and actually closed down a little bit on Monday at $222 a share. But as some of your investors started looking over some of that information, it showed that they had $67.3 million in sales there for the second quarter, and they were expecting $52.7 million. So that was very good. So that's why they were thinking it was a positive. But if you look between the lines, they had a second quarter loss of $9.4 million. So everybody's excited about this deal. They haven't actually made a dime yet, other than people throwing money in and investing it and handing it to them. But they must be pissing it away faster than they can get it hauled to them, because they've got second quarter losses of $9.4 million, which gave an adjusted loss with all your final math there of 14 cents a share that it lost. They were expecting a loss, but they expected the loss to be about 8 cents a share. So people weren't quite as excited about that after they got to analyzing the data there. But then after hours, they announced that they were going to sell another 3.25 million shares. Wow, so they're going to sell more. Well, then after that, in after hours trading, Beyond Meat stock fell 14%. They're thinking, yeah, this deal was fun, and all these yuppies were jumping in it, and it was the trendy thing to do, but who knows if they can stand on their own 2 feet. They've been making a lot of deals to offer some product in a lot of these different restaurants, and a lot of these trendy restaurants want to act like they're up with the times and all this, and they are offering some sort of a product that's fake meat or plant-based alternative. And Beyond's getting a lot of it, but they haven't really showed that they can maintain a certain level of people of consumption of that product, and they really haven't shown that they can even deliver as much of that product to all these restaurants that they're making deals with to even offer it. So it makes you wonder a little bit. It's kind of a fake wave that this fake meat's been riding for a while, and yes, it's making an impact at some level. But I tell you what, we sure can't tell it for beef demand, because we've just got absolutely great beef demand at all levels. So just take that for what it's worth. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central late in the day on Monday, sitting at 139.60, up 12 cents compared to the end of last week, and had some pretty good sales here. You know that we talked on our last visit. This market's been peaking midweek, so these Wednesday sales have been loving it. Your early week high volume Monday sales have not been really being able to see that big jump. Well, they saw a good jump this Monday, and I think a lot of it was in response to the higher fat cattle trade more than anything. It sure wasn't from the feeder cattle futures that were down, close to $1.50. But Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyard, 7,000 head there, called their feeder cattle $2 to $7 higher. Wow. They needed to gain some ground, but that's more ground that they really needed to gain. So we're looking higher for the week already, even compared to those sales midweek last week that were jumping so good. But calves not well tested. They did note that there was a lot of northern buyers in there buying yearling feeder cattle to take up north, because they can sure stand them up there this time of year. It's still hot. It's really hot. It's going to be hot all the way through most of the fall, and by that time those cattle will be acclimated. It's not a big deal to take those cattle north this time of year. But like I said, calves not well tested. However, some big strings of calves that were there, Oklahoma City sold 82 head of 340-pound steers at $196.50. That actually sounds like kind of a deal there. As much feed as there is available, forage anyway. 96 head of 424-pound steers at $175. Of course, that's getting more into the mainstream. But check this big quote out from National Livestock Commission in Oklahoma City on some big steers, and it's as high as anywhere. 74 head of steers weighed 883 at 139 and a quarter. That's through the ring in Oklahoma City. Your other big auctions around. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 5,000 head there on Monday for them. Called the market steady to $3 higher on everything, including calves. Look at the big quote that come out of Joplin on a big string. 139 head of steers weighed 1075. You don't see that very often, southwest Missouri right there. But you know, that's a lot of big cattle right there to sell at once. But they averaged 1075 at 125.60. So that's quite a ways higher, you know, sure, more than $10 higher than our fat cattle market. We don't have them very long to cheapen those cattle up and bring in that kind of money, and that just goes to show you how good demand is around. I want to talk about the board sale from Montgomery Stockyards in Montgomery, Alabama. They had a big board sale. They've been doing this every few weeks here all summer long. And a lot of you guys in other parts of the country, especially in the Midwest and way up in the plains, you think all them guys down in the southeast, they just sell them calves one at a time, one at a time. Yeah, there's a lot of sales that they do that, and then those shippers buy those calves one at a time. That's the way they want them. They can put them exactly where they want them, depending on how strict their orders are, and then they can ship those cattle out west. But they are starting to add more and more value to those cattle in the southeast. The local guys have figured that out. They can buy those cattle, those local cattle, and keep them local. They don't have hardly any trouble with them, keeping them there in that humid weather without putting them under too much stress, and then adding value by putting those in big packages and making yearlings out of them. And they're doing it more and more, and it's absolutely working for them. But Montgomery Stockyards, Montgomery, Alabama's board sale, they had 58 pot loads of cattle there, guys. Yeah, that's not nothing to sneeze at, none no onesie-twosie stuff there on the board sale. But top sale out of Montgomery, Alabama, and you look at the type of cattle, these are not the cattle that sold, but I was out in that area just a couple of weeks ago. I was there with Jerry Etheridge. I was there with all the guys, and we were cutting up and having a good time there. And at the guy's place where we were having the steak fry, he had some cattle around there. I took these pictures. These are the kinds of cattle. What would it hurt to send these cattle up north, shut them up and start feeding them? Wouldn't hurt a thing this time of year, guys. But they had 4 loads of similar type local cattle to ship the last half of September. 3% shrink there local weight on the ground, which is an advantage there too, with an 8-cent slide. 4 loads, 8 1/4 base weight at 140.40. And that's nothing to sneeze at there, guys. Montgomery Stockyards board sale. Bluegrass Stockyards South, Stanford, Kentucky. They know how to sell yearlings. We talk about them all the time. They had 64 head on Monday, weighed 859 at 142.50. Pretty salty there. But my main quote comes out of a sale barn I'm very familiar with right there in central Missouri. Callaway Livestock Center, Kingdom City, Missouri. 58 steers weighed 727 pounds at 154.75. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.